sipping champagne out the bottle
Yes.
by yourself, watching not one but two Monday Night Football games.
And that's the good thing is at least it became like a thing of like, oh, yes, I kept forgetting too, like midway through, like, oh, yeah, I can divert my attention to this actual good football being played between the Seahawks and the Lions. And I will tell you right now, C-Cat, it's the dream. It's obviously the dream, right? I was actually multitasking. I'm working on some stuff from our Heat Media Day stuff. I'm watching some football happen on the big screen and on the smaller screen, and drowning my, and again, in proximity sorrows in the Dolphins loss 31-12. 31-12, and it wasn't that close. The Dolphins lost at home at Hard Rock Stadium to a Titans team that, I mean, if you had one excuse for the Miami Dolphins last night, it would be, hey, man, you're bringing in Tyler Huntley off the practice squad. He only got about a week of prep for this. I mean, we've known he was going to be starting since they actually signed him, so let's not act like this was a game-time decision. So, yeah, Mike McDaniel, who is this offensive genius, we credit him for being such, a guy who squoze the most out of Tua Tagovailoa, at least we were told that, and he got a week of practice with Tyler Huntley, who we've seen come in a backup role and almost win a playoff game for the Ravens, also win a bunch of them for them down the stretch to help them make the playoffs when Lamar Jackson got hurt. So Tyler Huntley, we've seen under other coaching be a formidable backup who can win football games at a high level when you need them most.
And make the Pro Bowl.
And
Pro Bowl or Tyler Huntley that you're talking about right there. He did. I mean,
I know he made
facts.
the Pro Bowl, but you got to – it's almost – whenever you're talking about somebody in the NFL, especially quarterbacks, and the accolade that you choose to describe them by is Pro Bowler or he made the Pro Bowl, that's how you know that player's not good.
Hey, how about this number that I recited yesterday on Theoretically Speaking? Highest completion percentage in his last year at Utah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Tyler Huntley's a good quarterback. I'm not here to disparage him. This is not his fault.
Didn't mean to get you off track. Continue.
You got me off track only because whenever it's almost like you are disparaging him by crediting him for that Pro Bowl appearance and saying that's why he's good. There's other reasons why he's good. I already said that. I talked about his Ravens run. Shut up about the damn Pro Bowl. That doesn't matter. Mac Jones is a Pro Bowler, and look where he's at now, backing up maybe the worst $50 million quarterback in the history of the league. I got off base. Back to the Dolphins. Y'all aren't escaping this thing right now. We're 5 minutes into Theoretically Speaking. He's getting me distracted, C-Cat, because he's trying to protect you from your own feelings. I asked a question on Twitter here at Theo Dorsey TV. Do the Miami Dolphins have a coaching problem or do they have a quarterback problem? And I'm here to tell you it is quite clearly a coaching problem with Mike McDaniel. He is the reason why the Dolphins are unable to compete at not even a high level, but unable to look competitive, unable to look like an actual factor. They look like a bunch of non-factors out there on all three phases of the ball in the regular season, and damn it, a couple of years ago in the postseason as well, when they don't have their starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. That's a coaching problem in the NFL today, because when I look around the rest of the league, I see good coaches getting the best out of players who might not stack up as much on paper, especially at the quarterback position. It's no longer an excuse to say, oh, I don't have my starting quarterbacks, so we can forfeit away this game, or I can be excused for looking not competitive at home against a winless team. The team that the Dolphins faced last night and got beat 31-12 against, what happened midway through the first quarter for them, C-Cat? I think I missed that part when I was drowning in the bubbly from Larry from Boynton.
Will Levis got hurt.
Will Levis gets hurt. In comes Mason Rudolph. And Brian Callahan finds a way to drop 30 points on the road with a winless team with Mason Rudolph coaching that team or quarterbacking that team through 3.5 quarters. But the Miami Dolphins, who got a full week of practice, who knew they had Tyler Huntley going in, not only were they incompetent throughout the game, through their first 10 drives in total, and I'm talking about with Tyreek Hill on the outside, Jalen Waddle on the outside, Devon Achane in the backfield, Jalen Wright, a guy you got in the draft that you feel so strong about. I know you don't have Teron Armstead. I know Raheem Mostert sat out, but that shouldn't be your excuse. Through their first 10 drives, they had 84 total yards. How do you go 10 drives, 84 yards at home against the winless Titans? A team that has, I wouldn't even say low expectations, no expectations for competing at a high level in this league this year. They had their backup quarterback out there. At the very least, you would think you're able to create some turnovers against Mason Rudolph, or at least know, hey, let's load the box up. They're going to try to run the ball. Let's make Mason Rudolph beat us. But on all three phases, offensively, defensively, stopping the run, special teams, nothing about the Dolphins last night was inspiring. Nothing about them was anything close to what we were calling Mike McDaniel just a year ago today when we were saying they're the greatest show on surf. That sounded so cool, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, surf, Dolphins. They're lighting it up. They dropped 70 against the Broncos in week 3 of last year. They were undefeated at the time. It was such a magical time. And we credited them and crowned them so early, so much so that this offseason the Dolphins re-signed Mike McDaniel through 2029. Re-signed Tua Tagovailoa through 2028, 2029, depending on where you think they can get out of that contract for $50+ million a year. They're going to break all of Dan Marino's records. This is going to be one of the biggest offensive shows that we've ever seen. But you just take one piece out of that equation in Tua, and they go from the greatest show on turf to a puke show. That's coaching. That's coaching to me, and it's quite clear. It's not that the Dolphins have a quarterback problem with the ambiguity around whether or not Tua will return or what time he'll come back for the Dolphins. That's a coaching problem if he's not able to get, again, above average level football out of that football team that you've invested that much money in on the weapons side and even on defensive side. They've got to be able to stop the Titans. The Dolphins are in trouble, and they've recommitted to a coach who I don't think can get them over the hump. 888-760-3776, 888-760-3776. Do the Miami Dolphins, who dropped to the Titans 31-12 at home, Hard Rock Stadium, 184 total yards, not through the air, total yards, under 100 yards passing with Tyler Huntley. Do the Dolphins have a quarterback problem, or do they have a coaching problem? And when I tweeted this out, CCAT, everybody said both.
Well, it's hard to say they don't have a singular quarterback problem. You look across the league, you're seeing a lot better quarterback play and a lot more quarterback health than what you're getting in Miami. But I'm kind of with you here. We are seeing quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, second, third, fourth team quarterbacks succeed with less weapons than the Dolphins have had.
Yeah.
The excuses are running out for Miami. You got to be competitive. Maybe you don't have to win in crunch time. Maybe the Dolphins put up a fight and still lost to a bad Titans team. But they look like garbage. They look like JV.
They look like they didn't belong on the field. I'm going through the box score right here. You couldn't even find a rushing attack. Tyler Huntley was their leading rusher last night, 8 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown. Behind him, you get 3 carries from Jalen Wright, 32 yards, 10 carries from Devon Achane, who's supposed to be the second coming of Marshall Faulk, right? Greatest show on turf. There goes your Marshall Faulk. 10 carries and 15 yards. Averaging 1.5 yards per carry. You get more on a tush push. 3 carries for Tyreek Hill for 19 yards. You pay Jalen Waddle $30 million a year. You restructure Tyreek Hill's contract, but you only find a way to get both of them 8 receptions, not each, total. 8 receptions between Waddle and Hill, and they combine for less than 60 yards. That is a scheming problem. That is a coaching problem. We've seen Tyler Huntley look good in this league. On the other side of the ball, we saw Mason Rudolph beat you. I look around the league and I say, wait, what are the good coaches doing when they lose their quarterback? Well, I think we can all agree the coach out there in Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, he's a good coach. He's a good coach.
Doing okay. Not many offensive weapons, but making the most of it.
A bunch of no-name receivers. I believe 1 first-round draft pick in the midst of that, and Christian Watson, who's either unhealthy or underperforming most of the time for the Packers. And, well, let's see what he does. Year 1 of Jordan Love, they make it all the way to the playoffs. They beat the Cowboys on the road. First year starting for Jordan Love. That has a lot to do with coaching, also obviously the elite talent of Jordan Love. This year, you lose that close game to the Eagles. You lose Jordan Love in that game. You got 3 weeks without him, or actually 2 weeks without him, where you have to bring in a guy in Malik Willis who was so bad that the Titans would rather have Mason Rudolph as the backup this year to Will Levis than keep Malik Willis on the roster. So they let him walk. The Packers bring him in as a backup. Malik Willis, the Liberty grad, who really there were no prospects of him ever succeeding in the league after what we saw him do for the Titans back when, again, they had bad coaching. There's a common denominator in all of this, C-Cat. There's bad coaching, and then there's bad quarterback play, and a lot of times they're tied together. Bad coaching for Malik Willis last year with the Titans, he looked like an absolute scrub. Good coaching this year, Malik Willis with Matt LaFleur and the Packers, 2-0, moving the ball on offense. They had the greatest rushing attack in the NFL through those 2 games. This is coaching. This is a coaching problem that the Dolphins are suffering from, not a quarterback problem. The team they lost to last night, backup quarterback won that game for him. I look across the league. Joe Flacco steps in for Anthony Richardson in the middle of that game for the Colts, first half. Was that first quarter? Can't remember.
It was early in the game.
Early in the game, Joe Flacco has to sub in for Anthony Richardson. The Colts find a way to win. Oh, who's their head coach? Shane Steichen, the same guy that coached up Jalen Hurts to a second place MVP finish, to a Super Bowl appearance. And what happens to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts once Shane Steichen leaves that room? They absolutely suck on offense. Jalen Hurts has never lived up to what he was under Shane Steichen, and he may never see those heights again because, again, this is not to disparage Jalen Hurts. This is to credit good coaching in the NFL. We've seen it with Kyle Shanahan year after year, not only squeezing good quarterback play out of Jimmy Garoppolo and then the replacements that kept coming in for the 49ers because they stay. I mean, I don't know what it is about the 49ers. CK, you think your apartment is haunted? That team is haunted with injuries year after year after year. And we'll give an update later on about Christian McCaffrey because they're dealing with that as well. Maybe no better coach at coding injuries and coding having a deficiency of talent because of some kind of reason, either holding out or they're not able to play because of injury, than Kyle Shanahan, who's won with a bevy of quarterbacks in San Francisco. And then again, last year, who was the coach of the year? He was out there in Cleveland with the Browns. It was Kevin Stefanski. He was coach of the year not because he was able to take a good quarterback and make him great. No, because he was able to coach up Joe Flacco, who had to come in for Deshaun Watson, and he helped bring the Browns to a playoff appearance with a washed-up Joe Flacco. It's a coaching problem for the Miami Dolphins. I'm not smart enough to tell you exactly what Mike McDaniel should be doing better, but you know who is? You know, there is one coach here in South Florida who does seem to have the answers when he doesn't necessarily have all the tools in his toolbox, including his most important player. And we heard from him today. That coach is not with the Miami Hurricanes. He's not with the Miami Dolphins. He's with the Miami Heat. Here's Erik Spoelstra from training camp giving a little wisdom to the Dolphins.
You know, what you really just want in those scenarios is just somehow to quiet all the chaos and noise from the outside. Everything just starts to ramp up, and that's the nature of the business. We signed up for it. I recognize the noise when I hear it and when I see it. It's probably, you know, what makes me feel alive. It's probably, you know, what makes fan bases and inexperienced people really super uncomfortable. But this is the nature of pro sports.
It was the last part of what Erik Spoelstra just said right there, and apologize for the noise in the audio. That was a tweet from Ira Winderman, the Heat beat reporter. That was basketballs all in the background dribbling. But if you listen in there, Spoelstra said the adversity that the Dolphins are facing and the adversity that the Miami Heat have faced when they're without guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and even Tyler Hero in the playoffs, he thrives in that kind of environment. He seeks out that kind of tension because he's a maniac. He's a dude that loves. He absolutely loves when his back is against the wall. The Dolphins need a guy like Erik Spoelstra right now because I'm not quite sure that's an environment in which Mike McDaniel thrives. He seems like, at least from the outside looking in, a guy who is at his best when everything around him is hunky-dory, when everything around him is churning in the right direction, when there's all smiles, all joy, contract extensions left and right, you get a bag, you get a bag, you get a pat on the back, you get a friendly high five. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's just not the current state of the Dolphins today. They're an absolute trash bag right now when it comes to playing on the field. And you need a maniac in that room who's able to tell, hey, I don't give a damn who it is, next man up. We got to figure out a way to move the ball. We got to figure out a way to be competitive against some of these gritty teams like the Tennessee Titans, or especially the teams they got to face in their own division. Call up Spo. Get him to at least give him a little locker room huddle, a little some kind of an inspiring speech or something. Every time I listen to that dude talk, especially about what the Heat have left in the cupboard and how they're going to compete against the East, I start to believe a little bit.
I was listening to the Dolphins on the radio coming back from Heat Media Day after dropping you off, and I didn't see this play live, but I watched the replay. First drive of the game, swing pass to Tyreek Hill. It's a backward pass.
Yeah.
Hill drops it. Hill stumbles around, does not hustle to the football to pick up the fumble. That is very controllable. We talk about how hustle is within your control. You don't need to be taught it. You don't need to train for it. You just have to give your all.
It's about
and
will.
The first drive of the game, third play on offense for the Dolphins of the game, you can't hustle down and try to fight for a loose ball. That's coaching.
Yeah.
You're a star player. I don't care. Go after the football.
You know who wouldn't be doing that? Caleb Martin, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. They need Erik Spoelstra. The Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler since 2021, 37-28. And I get basketball's a different sport. The NBA is a little bit different. But you got to have your stars to win in the NBA. If there's any league where you cannot afford to be without your stars, it's that one. 37-28 without Jimmy Butler. The Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa, 1-6. And Tua is not Josh Allen. He is not Patrick Mahomes. He is not Lamar Jackson. He is not even Jordan Love. We don't think of him in that criteria of quarterback. You can't sit here and lie to me today and act as if you're grouping Tua in with the elite of the elites, the superstars, the can't win without him guys. If he's not in that group and the Dolphins struggle without him in such a sufficient way, and also, by the way, they haven't looked good even when Tua was healthy this year. They look bad. They've looked bad out of the gates. Against the Jaguars, they were bad, and they were able to come back because of Travis Etienne fumble. Shout out Javon Holland. Contract year, Javon Holland, the safety for the Dolphins. He's going to make his bag if he can make plays like that, winning plays for the Dolphins. They got absolutely stumped out by the Bills before Tua got hurt. Remember, they were down 21 points. That's why Tua was hustling on that third down, trying to make a play where there was none to be made in the passing game. So he scrambled and he went a little too far. Hits Damar Hamlin. Now we don't know when he's going to come back to football. This Dolphins team has not been good, and they continue to prove that week in and week out. 1-3 right now, likely on a trajectory to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft this next year. And I don't even think drafting a quarterback would be the answer. I think the problem right now is with your coaching. And I don't know how you solve it because you just recommitted to that guy. There's a lot of people calling for the general manager's job. That ain't in my ball court. I ain't going to go that far. We do have a general manager joining us today in Mike Tannenbaum. We'll ask him about his feelings on the state of the Dolphins today. But for me, as I watch it from afar here and I see what's going on, people are talking about the quarterback situation in Miami. It is a coaching situation in Miami. And I think Mike McDaniel needs to look inwardly and figure out how to fix it. Maybe he gets some mentorship from my guy, Erik Spoelstra. C-Cat, I can't wait for this big event out here in Boca Raton. If you're looking for a ray of sunshine, if you're a Dolphins fan in South Florida, or maybe you just want to have a good time in general, the annual Boca Raton Bowls ABC Supply Great Chefs Tailgate Showcase presented by Boca Raton Innovation Campus and CP Group, that heats up on Tuesday, October 15th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Join us. Join the squad. Pull up on the team as we are going to be at Brick in Boca Raton. We're going to have dozens of local chefs, breweries, and cocktail masters serve up their favorite tailgate classics. Tickets are on sale right now. It includes food samplings, entertainment, beer, wine, cocktails, and soft drinks. Visit spiritofgivingnetwork.org/events to purchase your tickets today. Tap in with us. Walt on the YouTube stream. Walt, who is tapped in with us on YouTube. Our stream is presented by Prize Picks at Theo Speaking. You can join us live every single day. He's saying for the Dolphins, fire the head coach and the GM. That will be Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel. I got some news for you. They're not firing Mike McDaniel anytime soon. I don't know what the details of that contract are, but they just extended him this offseason. He's stuck. But he's saying fire the head coach and the general manager, draft Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward and hire Sanders as head coach? He wants Deion Sanders to come in and save the day?
Tell you what, it'd make our job a whole lot easier. If Deion Sanders was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, I would love that. Are you kidding me? Because it's stretched enough talking about Colorado football just because Deion's there. Now Deion's within the vicinity. Maybe we get Deion Sanders weekly on Theoretically Speaking. I think he'd sign up for that.
I think he would as well. If there's anybody that can that make that connection, it's you, C-Cat.
Yeah, me and him are like two peas in a pod.
Locked in. Locked in, twin. You know, next year the Dolphins have $70 million against the cap between Tua and Tyreek Hill. $70 million against the cap. Cap's about $260.
Well, what I want to, we talked preseason once Tua got his big contract, and once Tua came out and talked about how bad of a human being his former head coach Brian Flores was, and how great of a human being Mike McDaniel is, and how Mike McDaniel is the keys to make the Tua train really chug down the track. Evan Cohen went on Sportsmanlike and was talking about how, well, good for Mike McDaniel. He automatically is the head coach of the Dolphins until Tua's not the quarterback of the Dolphins. That's his job security right there. Well, when you predicate your coach based on the quarterback, once you lose your quarterback, why is the head coach there? If this guy, what's this guy bringing to the table? If he is the secret sauce to make Tua Tagovailoa worth the high draft pick we used on him, 4 or 5 years ago? If he can't win without Tua, he's pretty one-trick pony. And that's kind of unfortunate because you kind of want consistency at the head coaching position. Quarterbacks can come and go due to injury, due to fragility. Head coaches, you should be hiring for the long term. And Mike McDaniel feels like anything but right now.
And that's the problem is I would assume he would be better at this. He's supposed to be one of those offensive masterminds, one of these play-calling geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we see what Ben Johnson is doing with Jared Goff, right? Who a lot of people gave up on. We see what Kevin Stefanski was able to do with Joe Flacco. We're watching live. We're watching in real time what Kevin O'Connell is able to do with the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold. This is coaches getting the most out of quarterbacks. This is reclamations that are happening throughout the National Football League at the quarterback position, whereas we talked about it before the show, so many years before, like, it was one and done for quarterbacks. You got an opportunity, you stink, nobody gives you another chance.
Bust.
Or for those busts, their second chance was generally as a backup, and when they got in, they looked just as bad as they used to.
Yeah.
But now you got Baker Mayfield still baking at least a decent enough temperature, 350 on for 30 minutes. You got Sam Darnold, you got Geno Smith,
who looked great last night in the loss.
These are quarterbacks that if I told you 7 or 8 years ago, some of these dudes are going to be in the MVP conversation for different teams later on, you would have slapped me across the face. You would have slapped me. Rightfully so. I would have took it. I wouldn't have even responded. I was like, you're right. I deserve that.
Thanks for keeping me in check.
Yeah. I'm an idiot. Slap me again. Turn the other cheek. That's what I would have had to do.